It's about the craft, you know, and it's about breaking in and your first role and advice for aspiring actors. It's on very much on an educational level.
Okay, cool.
And what we've decided to do now is actually, instead of having it in a sort of a public speaking context, like an interview with like live, we're actually filming it and we're putting the podcasts on our website. Cool. And we're filming you and Jason Cope. But you're actually kicking off the whole thing.
Awesome.
Quite nice. You're like our first person.
And of course, we've got
really
a beautiful
great
history with you.
So this is a bit of a learning
special
curve for us too.
Yeah.
So we've got some questions. Ultimately, we're going to probably just cut about 3 to 5 minutes, actually.
Okay.
And we're going to try and get it succinct. The theme is breaking in and advice for the aspiring actor. But we've got some questions around it just to lead you through. So just
Looking back, my word.
Well, what I want to ask you first today, are we going? Is, you know, tell me about how you found out about this role. Give me the run up to this role.
Well, I found out about the role through my agent in January last year, so that was 2008, and just said that there's this movie, it's going to be sci-fi, and then of course there was the mention of Peter Jackson, and then I was like, oh, fantastic, and went for the first audition in, I think it was February last year, and then I think 1 or 2 or 3 callbacks thereafter, and by May last year I got the call from my agent, and it was an early morning call. I remember I was still lying in bed and she said, Tanya is yours, and I was so excited. It was fantastic. Awesome.
So Tanya is yours. Tell me a little bit about the role of Tanya.
Tanya wasn't too difficult to play because she's actually a lot like me. She's a small town girl, sort of down to earth. She's happily married. She's a housewife. Okay, I'm not a housewife, but don't really even want to be just a housewife. But yes, so she was. She wasn't too difficult to play. She's the wife of Vickers van der Merwe, who is the lead of the movie, and she just goes through this terrifying experience with him, and her own father lies to her about her husband and the situation, and it was quite interesting. And then. Unfortunately, a lot of the really, really exciting scenes, very emotive scenes, were cut out of the movie because they didn't want me to come, in the final storyline, they didn't want me to come into contact with my husband, Vickers. And we actually had a couple of scenes initially where he did, and he sort of had this alien arm and whatever, and freaking out, and it was beautiful to play all of that, and surreal as well, because I mean, who on earth really turns into an alien in real life? But it was great. It was really great.
Now tell me, what was it like working with the director?
The director, Neil Blomkamp, is a phenomenal human being. I mean, step aside Steven Spielberg, here comes Neil Blomkamp. He is great, and what was awesome was that there was a script, and there were there's a blue script, a yellow script, a pink script. The scripts changed daily. It was quite interesting because it was very organic, and as we were going along, because he's so creative and such an awesome mind, that as he was feeling and seeing things happen on set, he would change, which is great. He wasn't too set in his ways. And then also he gave us so much freedom with our scripts. We would first have to do what was sort of on paper, and from there he just sort of said, well, go ahead, play with it. So, you know, we could really make the character our own, and it was also, I think that's also why the acting comes across as being so natural and so good and just quite chatty and conversational and quite fun, is because that's literally what we were doing. We were just sort of, you know, going...
So improvising.
It was improvising as you're going along and sort of bringing a bit of the script into it, and if you were going off on a tangent and you weren't going in the right direction, Neil would just bring you back again, and it was fantastic. It really...
That's lovely to work with the director. It just sort of guides you and leads
exactly, you. And I think a lot of actors don't like working like that. They don't like the impromptu work. But I actually quite enjoyed it.
What advice could you give a new actor in this style of work? What would you say that you learned on set that you
just really relax. I mean, make the character your own, I'm a method actor, so just sort of become that person right there and think, what is she feeling? What is she feeling in this moment? Okay. Her husband has just walked into the room. He's got this big alien arm. Clearly, you're freaking out. You might be swearing at him. There's tears. You got to feel it. And as you're feeling the character, the words will come. So yeah, that's my advice.
Wonderful. Another thing I'm dying to know about was how did you sell it? So now you found out this role, and you've got your script. Did you read the story from start to finish? Did you look for your parts first?
When I first got the script, I obviously just read it from start to end because I was so excited to see what auditions and callbacks. I'd only really had my bits and pieces. I had no idea what the story was about. I knew it was sci-fi. I knew it was Peter Jackson. I knew Neil was the director. Didn't know who my fellow actors were. And even at that stage, when I got the script, I had no idea who else I was going to be working with. I didn't know Sholto was going to be there, or Jason, or Kenneth, or David. Then, as I mentioned earlier, the script did change quite a bit. I mean, we shot 6 different endings. I think it was a bit like Sex and the City, where none of us really knew with the Sex and the City movie. Nobody really knew what sort of ending there was going to be. At one stage, I killed the guy at the end, shot him, and they apparently shot some. Then Mandla, another actor, shot the bad guy at the end, and then there was a whole bunch of different versions, which was quite fun because we had no bloody idea what was going to happen. As I mentioned, as Neil was sort of going along, if something wasn't gelling and he wasn't quite liking the story, he'd think, hold on a second, we actually need to change this angle a little. Because he wrote the story, he could do that. I think if there was a different writer to the director, obviously there'd be a problem. You'd have a bit of a creative difference.
This is a highlight for your life. Can you take us back to some dark moment and be able to show us, this is when I really was struggling and now, this happens. Can you give us that dark and light? Because we all experience it.
In real life?
In your acting, yes.
In acting and in life, and this sort of the journey.
This acting journey.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I studied drama at ACT many years ago, and was going through a horrible, horrible personal time in my life, and it was a very dark time in my life as an actor, personally, and I just remember thinking at the time, why am I even doing this? What in God's name is the point? And it's such a dog-eat-dog, cutthroat business. I'm just trying to keep my head above water with my personal life right now. How the hell am I gonna, what do I really want to do with this? Yes, I've always been a drama queen. I've done stage since I was 4. Do I really want to go into film? I quite enjoyed it. I did lots of television commercials. I've done a bit of television presenting. But did I really want to go into this whole crazy world? And I'm so glad I did, because look, good things do happen, but you've got to persevere. Have to.
You all moved to Joburg. Tell us a little bit about that. You were originally in Cape Town. How did that help with the acting?
I moved back. I lived in Cape Town for years and moved back to Johannesburg 2 years ago. That was for personal reasons and also business, I suppose. Also lots of family up there. I don't think it's really influenced my acting in any way, or that there's more work there or here, because a lot of the castings get done up there and down here, and if there's a movie in South Africa, the casting directors will know about it, and if they feel that you're fit for the role, you'll be called. So it doesn't really matter where you are, and besides, I quite like sort of living between both places. I love being in Cape Town in summer, and I don't like it in winter, although this last winter in Joburg was not nice.